we go.
Okay.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is the Contra Costa Tail Spinners Zoom monthly swap meeting. And we haven't met on Zoom for a couple of months, I guess. So it's really wonderful to see, especially those of you who can't come and see us when we've met in person recently. It's really great. Um, and we have one, two, three, four, five, six, at least six wonderful story swappers tonight. We don't have a featured teller tonight. But we'll use a little time to talk about the Bay Area Storytelling Festival at the end. Um, and if, yeah, okay. So we're just going to get started. Our first two storytellers. So it's going to be Rose and then Bev. And so okay. I'm a little slow on okay, here's Shelley. This is great. Um, I'm going to spotlight Rose. I'm just moving. I'm a little pokey tonight, but here we are. Rose, tell us a story. I want to just first say, Rose stepped back like 2 months ago or whatever it was. She was going to tell a story, but we had too many people. And then last month she thought it was on Zoom, but it was in person, so she couldn't do it. So
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah, we're so
Yeah.
glad that here you are to tell us a story.
Okay. Once upon a time, because that's how fairy tellers tells begin. Once upon a time there was a beautiful princess, and she was beautiful. She had golden hair like spun gold. She had blue eyes and rosy cheeks and luscious red lips, and she was beautiful. If she was awake, she was beautiful. If she was asleep, she was beautiful. And even if she was mad, she was beautiful. And I hate to tell you that she was often mad, for this was one very, very spoiled princess. Now, one day she flew out of the palace in a huff. Now, you have to understand that a huff is not some kind of a fancy carriage. It is a temper tantrum. And she got on her horse and she rode into the forest so fast and so furiously that all of her couriers were left behind. And then she looked around and she was lost. So she said to her horse, "Take me home." And the horse stood still. "Take me home." And the horse didn't move. And she got off the horse and she walked around to the front of the horse. She looked him right in the face and she said, "Take me home." And she kicked him. And he took off for home because he knew where to go all along. You just didn't want to take her there. So she was lost in the forest and she walked around, and then she happened to see a little old lady sleeping under a tree. Now, this little old lady had a knobby nose and gray hair and wrinkles and a patched apron and bare feet. Now,
Okay.
anyone who knows anything knows that if you find a little old lady asleep in the forest, it is most likely a fairy. Petronella walked right up to that fairy, kicked her on the feet, and said, "Wake up, take me home." The fairy woke up and looked at Petronella. She said, "Come with me, dearie." She took hold of her hand and started to lead her through the forest until they came to a hut. And it was kind of tumble down and kind of shabby looking. But Jane opened the door and she said, "Welcome to my home." And the fairy said, "I like you, dearie. I think I will give you 3 wishes." And Petronella said, "I am the princess. I should be the one with 3 wishes." And she stomped her foot. And the fairy said, "That foot stomping has to go." And she waved her wand. And Petronella's foot turned to stone. And oh, oh. And Jade said, "Having a stone foot couldn't be very happy. I think it has to go. I wish that her foot were not stone anymore." The fairy said, "That's a waste of a very good wish, but it's your wish." She waved her wand, and the foot was back being flesh again. Petronella says, that was stupid, stupid thing to do. And the fairy said, I don't like your rude language. And she waved her wand, and with every mouthful that Petronella spoke, out came a toad or a frog. Oh. And Jane said, that couldn't be that happy. I think that those toads and frogs have to go. The fairy said, that's kind of a waste of a good wish, but all right. And she waved her wand, and the toads and the frogs were gone. Petronella said, I want to go home. I need to go home. And the fairy said, what you need is a nap. And she waved her wand at Petronella, and Petronella flung her hands out to the side, and the wand flew in the air and broke into two pieces, and out came all of the fairy dust, and it settled on Petronella, it settled on Jane, and it settled on the fairy. And they all went to sleep. And it was one of those 100-year naps. And so they slept in the forest, and the roof of the house sagged a little bit, and the doors hung on its hinges. And it maybe would have been there for 100 years, excepting that Prince Jojo came riding through the forest on his horse. Now, this horse was a little bit old and limped a little bit, but I mean, what can you expect? Prince Jojo was the seventh son of a seventh son, so all of royalty had was the title and nothing else. And he looked in the window and he saw 3 women asleep in the first. There was a little old lady. There was a very plain girl with straight hair and a little bit long nose, and there was a beautiful, beautiful princess, and he knew how this went. If he kissed that princess and woke her up, her father would give her hand in marriage and half the kingdom. Prince Jojo got off of his horse and he went around to the door and he went in, and as he stood there, he thought, being the seventh son of a seventh son, he hadn't had much practice kissing. Maybe he'd better practice. So he went over to the little old lady and he leaned over and he kissed her right on her nose. And she woke up and began to look for pieces of her wand. He went over to Jane. And he reached over and he kissed her on the cheek, and she woke up and she looked over at the prince, and by this time he had reached over and he was lifting the princess up and looking at her. And Jane said, I wish he would love me. And he looked over at Jane. I think I love you, he said. And he put the princess down and he went over to Jane and lifted her up and he said, would you marry me? And of course she said yes. And the fairy godmother fixed the house up for them and their children. And she built a house next door so she could be the godmother to the children. And they lived happily ever. Oh, you're probably wondering what happened to the princess. Well, they put her in a closet and they only bring her out if they're having a party. And they bring her out to hang coats on. And they put on a sign that says, Sleeping Princess, do not kiss ever. And that is the story of Sleeping Ugly, which was written by Jane Yolen, who gave me permission to tell this story as long as I didn't change the ending. And why would you ever want to change that ending?
Rose, that was great. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Jane Yolen, too, for what a great twist. And I just have to say, I have my 2 granddaughters staying with me, 2 and 5, and they love to dress up as princesses. And sure, do they act like that princess a lot? They're like, meh, I want meh. So maybe I have to tell them that story. Thank you.
Okay, thank
What a
you.
great way to start out our evening. All right. Our next story. So Rose lives not too far. You're in Contra Costa County, right? You're in the southern part. Yes.
I'm in Livermore.
Yeah. And but our next storyteller, Bev, is from all the way
I'm
on the
actually in
coast.
Alameda County, but that's okay.
Alameda County. Oh, Livermore,
Yeah.
Alameda County. You're in. Okay. but nearby. But now we're going to go and visit Bev in the East Coast. And here I am going to spotlight you, Bev. I'm going to replace the spotlight. Okay, does that work? Everybody see Bev well? Okay, Bev. Bev's
Okay,
practicing something she's going to maybe use for something big. So we're looking
right.
forward to giving
Okay.
it a listen.
The name of my story is Saving Rags. I was teaching third grade, and in September, the first week of school, I told my kids that a third grader that had grown up and just graduated in the June before this year was going to visit us. And he was going to ask you something that we might like to do. So, at 10 in the morning, knock on the door, and in came Jimmy. Now, Jimmy had been a third grader in my classroom, and he always had wanted to go into the Marines. And he came in and he said, Boys and girls, I've signed up when I graduated high school, and I'm now a Marine, and I'm going to go now to the Gulf War where they're having a war, and I'm going to be working on a boat and possibly going on the land as a Marine. And he said, the reason why I came is I wanted you to be my pen pal. And I'll write you back and forth if you don't mind. I'd love to hear from you and what you're doing in Miss Schwartz's class. And the kids were all excited and they asked him a lot of questions. And we wished him well and we gave him a little box of Rye cookies to take with him. Well, that year we corresponded back and forth, and he actually sent a video, which I still have, of his ship, and all his shipmates are from all across the U.S., and they were all talking to my class and telling them what they did on the ship. It was just wonderful. And then June came along, and I said, "Oh, Jimmy, would you like to visit my classroom in person? I think the kids would love to see you again, since we've been writing you all year long." And he said, "I'd love it." So 10 o'clock, my parents had set up a sweet table in the back of the room. We cleaned our desks in our rooms, and we just couldn't wait to see him. And knock, knock went the door, and I went to answer him. And there, 6 feet 4, was a handsome Marine in his uniform with all his medals on his chest. And he took his hat off and held it. And he said, "Oh, it's such an honor to be here again, Miss Schwartz." And he walked in, and all the students and the parents and I clapped for him. And he said, "Oh, I'm so happy to be here." And he goes, "Oh, Miss Schwartz, there you still have the sharpener in the back of the room on the shelf." I said, "Yep, it's been here as long as the school in 1920 started. That's the original sharpener." And he walked over and he touched the sharpener and he looked out the window and he turned. "Miss Schwartz, remember the last time I looked out this window?" And I said, "How could I ever forget? I almost got fired." And all of a sudden, the parents' eyes were bulging, and my kids were going, "What?" He says, "Yes, but we saved Rags. We saved my dog's Rags' life." And all of a sudden, the kids like, "Well, what happened? What happened?" And he said, "Miss Schwartz, tell the story." So I said, "Okay." I said, "I haven't thought about that story in years." I said, "Well, boys and girls, it was June, just like today, but it was a hot, moist, humid day, and it was very lightly raining. And Jimmy liked to go out each day to the sharpener with a long pencil and slowly do it because behind outside our school was the gym where the playground was, and he would love to watch the kids playing out there in the gym. And I would say, "Jimmy, sit down. I know what you're doing." But that day, instead of me having to tell him that, all of a sudden, Jimmy said, "Oh, Rags! Rags! Oh my God! My dog's gotten loose out of our backyard. He's playing outside in the back." And the kids all jumped up and started running towards the three windows. Oh my God. And I was running too. And there was a dog, a rag doll, they called it. And he was running around, and all of a sudden he fell on the ground and he rolled over in the mud, and he was having a great time. And oh my God, he just was like in heaven, but we weren't. I said, "Oh my God." He goes, "Miss Schwartz, he's going to get loose on School 14, which in front of our school is like the highway. He's going to get killed. We have to save my dog. Can we say, how help save my dog, Miss Schwartz?" I didn't know what to do. And I said, the first thing that said came to my mind is, "Jimmy, go run out, get the dog, and bring him into the classroom." And he said, "Oh, thank you, thank you." So he runs out. We're watching him. He gets the dog. He's dragging him by the collar, and he's trying to start shaking, and all the stuff's going all over him and the door, the ground, and everything. And he comes to the side of our door. He brings him up about 12 stairs, and we're the second classroom on the right. I have the door open. He runs in with the dog. I close the door, and he lets the dog go. He leaves go of the collar, and the kids are trying to pet him, and he goes, and the hair, the water, the mud goes all over the kids, the floors, their clothes, me. And I'm going, "Jimmy, get hold of him." And I put a chair next to my desk, "Sit there." And so now I have the dog laying on the ground, panting, and is smelling up my room. Have you ever smelled a wet dog? It's unimaginable. Oh, he goes, "Okay, Miss Shorts, what are we going to do now?" I said, "Jimmy, I haven't thought that far." I said, "I need quiet. I need to think." You could have heard a pin drop in my room. I said, "Jimmy, finally, I thought, is your mother home?" "Yes, she's home today." I said, "Okay, I have a plan. I'm going to hold your dog. No one moves," I said in the class. "No one." I said, "Go to the secretary. Now, Jimmy, there's only 3 phones in the school. The nurse upstairs, the principal's office, and the secretary's office next to that office. There's a phone on the desk. Ask her, you have to call your mother to ask her a favor. Don't let the secretary hear you." So I said, "And tell your mother if she's home, can she come and get the dog? Or have you meet her outside? That's even better. And she'll put the dog right into the car and you can come back into the school." So he goes, "Okay." I go, nobody moves. So here we are. He goes out the door. The dog's still on the floor. I'm holding it. And he goes to the office. And then he comes back. "Miss Schwartz, my mother was home. I mean, she's coming right away. I told her I'd meet her at the side door and be sitting on the stoop there." I said, "Great." I said, "Now look it. Before we go out, I'll look both ways down the hall. To the right was a real long hallway. To the left was the stairs." And I looked, I go, "Okay, Jimmy, go." And he runs down with his dog, dragging the dog. I go, "Oh, I hope the dog doesn't bark." And he gets out, and I see him sitting there waiting for his mother. I was so relieved. So I get back into my room and I'm looking. The floor is muddy. You can see dog prints. The room stank. Oh, stunk so hard. It was horrible. And all of a sudden, the door opens. It's not Jimmy, though. It's my principal. Frank DeFrank was his name. And he goes, "I hear there's a dog in this room. Dogs are not allowed in this school. Where's that dog?" And he runs to the old-fashioned closet where you open one door, all 4 are open. And he's looking in the closet. He runs to one corner, he runs to another corner. He goes, "I smell dog. Look at this mud on this floor. It's dog prints. I know you've had a dog. I'm going to look through this school. And as soon as I find that dog, Miss Schwartz, you're in trouble, and I'll see you later." And he runs out and slams the door. And luckily, he runs down the long hallway. He doesn't look to see that Jimmy is on the side. Oh my God. Well, again, the classroom's silent. No one knows what to say. They know I'm in trouble. They know we're all probably in trouble at that point. And then the door opens again. I say, "Oh my God, I'm going to have a heart attack." And who was it? It was Jimmy. And Jimmy comes in and he says, "Miss Schwartz, my mother got the dog. We saved Rag's life. Why are you so quiet?" And one of the kids says, "Miss Schwartz is getting fired. The principal came in and said she's in a lot of trouble, and so are we." Jimmy says, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "No." I said, "Look it, from now we have to clean up this room. I'm going to have some of you help me get a mop and try to clean this up and whatever at lunchtime. But if we go to lunch or gym or music or art, and we have 2 sides to stairs on either side of the classroom. If we say hallway, if we see Mr. DeFrank around, turn around and we're going to go down the stairs or up the stairs and out to the other side to get to where we're going. No one is to talk to him. And that's what we did for the rest of the year. Every day I waited for Mr. DeFrank to call me in to talk about this incident. I never got called in, and he retired that June. Maybe he was doing me a favor. Now, Jim, I just couldn't believe what happened. And here we were in front of the parents, in front of the kids. He had been a pen pal. And he says to them, that's exactly what really happened. We almost got Ms. Schwartz fired. And everyone was like applauding and shaking Jimmy's hand for saving the dog. And it was quite a rewarding story to know that Jimmy, who had grown up to be a Marine, had actually come back and told the rag story of saving his dog. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bev. Wow. The adventures of a teacher. and a student who doesn't forget. That's heartwarming for all teachers. Yes.
He's 55 and has 2 kids now. And he loves me telling the story to his kids all the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. All right. So we've had from fairy tale to true life tale, and Renu is going to tell us a story now, which she said is a folk tale. And let me spotlight you, Renu. Gotta find you first. There, okay. And then I'll remove mine. Okay. Replace. There we go. All right. So good to see you after a few months. Tell us a story.
Thank you. Well, this is a folk tale from Tamil Nadu, where I live. A very long time ago, there lived a king called Devendra. Now, Devendra loved music, and he loved all kinds of music, but he loved the instruments the best. But he was also very fickle-minded. He would listen to the music, would shake his head, he would clap his hands, he would tap his feet. But after maybe a month or 2, he would say, oh, I've had enough of this. Find someone else. And it was the job of his ministers to keep looking out, because they had to keep somebody ready for every 2 months. It was a task that they found very difficult sometimes. Now, the present flavor at the court was somebody who played it's similar to a trumpet. And this man had a group, and they were very happy that the king liked the music so much, because you see, every now and then the king would hand over a bag of gold coins, and that made them very happy. The leader was called Ponnappa, and the actual instrument is called Nadaswaram. Beep, 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 beep. Whenever the Nadaswaram was blown, the king would say, yes, yes, very good, very good. But one day he said, stop, I've had enough. I need to find somebody else. He called for the minister. Minister said, yes, your majesty. Yes, Maharaj. There is indeed somebody that, and you have never heard this instrument before. Really? What is it? Well, it is a percussion instrument, Maharaj. It's called the tawil. Tawil. Sounds very interesting. Get them here, quickly. Now, Ponnappa was listening, and he felt, oh my God, no more gold coins. What am I going to do? And this group of musicians came to him and said, Ponnappa, do something. We are going to lose this place in the court. Do something. Ponnappa thought, I have an idea. We will go to the entrance to the city. We will wait there. All of us have dogs. Let's take our dogs there. And then when these men are just entering in their bullock cart, we will let the dogs go. And seeing the dogs, the ferocious dogs, these people will go back to their village, and we can come back and play music again, because the king, you see, he still likes us. Some of them were a little doubtful, but they said, okay, sounds like a good plan. Let's do it. And so, listening in on to the minister, telling the king exactly when these people are expected, Ponnappa and his group got ready. That night, they went and hid themselves behind some rocks. Early morning, they could hear the bullock carts coming along. Tappa, 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 and they could hear the sound of drum. Dum, 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 dum. Bullock carts are coming, they're coming, they're coming. Let go the dogs. And so the dogs were let off, and these guys just disappeared. Dogs went towards the bullock carts, and everybody got scared. They said, "Oh, the dogs, they're going to bite us, they're going to attack us. Let's go back, let's go back." But the leader, Chandran, said, "Wait, stay calm. Come on, let's play." Da-dum, 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 da-dum. They started playing loudly. Now, hearing this sudden noise, these dogs were not used to it. They got really scared and they went running away. "Look, see what happened? Just stay calm," said Chandran. "Let's carry on." And so they went to the palace. The king welcomed them warmly. "Yes, yes, come, come. I've heard about your music. Come on, come in. Let's start playing." So they started playing. The king was nodding and he was clapping, and then suddenly there was a disturbance. Ponnappa came and said, "Maharaj, Maharaj, Maharaj, please, please give us one more chance, Maharaj. Their music is good, but our music is better, Maharaj. Please, please, please." You are disturbing me. But there is something in what you say. So maybe one of the ministers came up and said, "Maharaj, Maharaj, we can do something. Let's just have a competition between the two. It'll be very interesting, Maharaj." "Okay, sounds like a good idea. But Maharaj, we'll go out. You know those banana plants? If somebody plays really well, those green bananas will turn yellow, Maharaj." "Really?" "Yes, Maharaj. Let's go out." So everybody went outside. And the Tawil people started playing. Madama, madama, madama. And the king looked. Are the bananas turning yellow? No, they were still green. He said, "Okay, you play, Ponnappa." So Ponnappa, beam, 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 beam. Wait, he looked again. Oh, they're still green. Something is happening here. Something is happening. Now, you both, you don't look like friends. You have to be friends. Immediately, Ponnappa felt very guilty. He ran towards Chandran, fell on his feet and said, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Chandran looked at him and said, "Hello, hello, don't do all this. Why are you doing this? I'm the one, we sent some dogs to scare you off." "You sent the dogs?" "We didn't get scared of your dogs. Your dogs got scared by our drums." "Oh, sorry, sorry. I'm very sorry." It's okay, it's okay. Get up, get up, get up. I don't like anybody lying on my feet." So then the king looked at them and said, "Okay, now you all have made friends. Now play." They started playing. Both of them played together. Pim, 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 da-dum, 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 pim, 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 da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. And now the king said, "Let us see." The bananas had turned yellow. And he said, "See, this is the meaning of collaboration. No competition, only collaboration. I am happy with both of you. You can continue to play in my court." And of course, Ponnappa was thrilled, and so was Chandran. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Renu. We got somebody just coming in. All right. Excuse me. I love, stories and music are such a great combination, and it's wonderful to hear a story that's about music and that has wisdom and humor all put together. All right. Let's see, where are we? Okay. First of all, welcome, Storm. There you are. Welcome, Storm. Good to have you with us. So all the folks who are far away, nice to see you coming in. We've had 3 great stories already, and now Jane is going to be our next storyteller. And Jane, here is your little box. So let me spotlight you for everybody. And Jane, tell us a story. It's been really fun. We've been going back between like traditional and personal, traditional and personal. Jane, you said you have a personal story, so let's hear it.
Well, when cousins Pam and Gary came to California, they came and lived at our house. And that meant I was on the white couch again for quite a while they used my room. They came with a surprise for us, and that was that Pam was going to have a baby. Well, after that baby came and they had finally arranged themselves into their own house, we were the babysitters for little Colin, Colin, Colin. And as Colin got out of his babyhood and into his toddlerhood, his mom and dad sometimes were both working on the same night, and so he would spend the night at our house. Now, Pam and Gary gave me a great big queen size bed because they bought a water bed. Well, when Colin spent the night at our house, he slept with me in the great big queen size bed. Now, there we would be, and I would set him up way over on the other side of the bed, and both of us would go to sleep. I was 19 years older than Colin. Well, during the night, if I was sleeping and I felt one little foot touch my body, I learned to grab that foot in a second and shove his little feet back down and push him far away from me. Because if his foot touched me and I didn't get to it fast enough, he would just walk right up my body and turn himself upside down. So Colin and I, from early on, were building our golden thread. So some years later, I think Colin was about 8 or 9, maybe, we had lots of adventures. And this adventure was we were going to drive to Point Reyes to look for the gray whales on their migration north. Well, we drove and drove and drove and went all the way out to the end of the point and sat on a bluff looking out over the Pacific Ocean. We walked down a little ways and sat there and snuggled into the green hummocks of soft grass. And we just looked and looked and looked and looked. It was a sunny day. The sun was sparkling all the way out to the horizon. There was enough wind that there were little white caps on the ocean surface. We watched and talked about things and kept looking, our eyes always scanning, scanning, scanning to see those immense beings come up out of the waves and go back down. You could tell they were coming by a blow, and then down they'd go. If you're very lucky, they might reach and crash down, or they might spy hop up above the water, look around, and come back down. We knew they were coming north from Baja California, and at this time in the spring, it's the mother cows and their calves north, 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 heading for Alaska, where they would feed all summer long. We had been there about 2 hours, maybe, just watching and watching, when quite a group of cars arrived and people unloaded, and it was parents and children, more or less Colin's age, and an older lady, and they walked down the slope to where we were sitting, and they were all standing and looking, and the children started exclaiming. They were so excited. There's one. I saw a whale. Look, there's one. I saw one. Look at that. Oh, there's another one. Oh, they were so thrilled, so excited. And the lady who was clearly their leader was exclaiming with them, "Oh, isn't that magnificent? Oh, how exciting. Oh, how wonderful." And they stayed maybe 30 minutes. And then they all packed their little selves back up the hill and got in the cars and drove away. And Colin and I were still sitting there. He turned and looked at me, and I turned and looked at him. And it was one of our golden thread moments. He said, "Janie, they didn't see any whales, did they? And I said, no, God, they didn't. We laughed and laughed. We watched for an hour or two more. No whales for us. But we looked at that horizon and we looked at that beautiful sea, and we knew somewhere the whales were headed north. The end.
Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful story, Jane. Thank you. And it's the day after Earth Day, right? That just feels like just the right appreciation of nature to all of us. Mm, thank you. All right. Our next storyteller is Bertha Riley. I'm going to spotlight you, Bertha. Bertha told us a ballad story that she is amazing at memorizing, and now she says she has another one.
Okay. Yeah, all right. It's one of those Robert Service, and I didn't grow up in America. So you may all know this very well, but I didn't. And I just loved the rhythm and the music and the rhyming. And so I'm hopefully memorized because, that's good for older brains, right? So I'm going to try and do it from memory. Okay. So this one is called The Cremation of Sam McGee. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. And the northern lights have seen strange sights, but the strangest that ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam McGee. Now, Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and grows. Why he left his home in the south to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but that land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell. Though he'd often say, in his own quaint way, I'd rather live in hell. Well, on a Christmas day, we were mushing our way along the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold through the parka's fold. It stung like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd closed and the lashes froze, till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night, as we lay wrapped tight in our blankets beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed and the stars overhead were dancing to and fro, he turned to me and, Cap, says he, I'll cash in this trip, I guess. But if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request. Well, a pal's last need is a thing to heed. And he looked so low that I couldn't say no. And he said with a sort of a moan, it's this cursed cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. It ain't been dead. It's the awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate these last remains. Well, a pal's last need is a thing to heed, and I swear I would not fail. We started on at the crack of dawn, and God, he looked ghastly pale. He lay on the sleigh and he moaned all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. With the corpse half hid, I couldn't get rid. I hurried, horror driven. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, but because of a promise given, it was tied to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, you may test your brawn and brains, but it's up to you, and you promise true to cremate these last remains. Now, a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart, how I cursed that load. And in the long, long night, by the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the midnight snows, oh God, how I hated that thing. But on we went, though the dogs were spent, and the trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And often I'd sing to that awful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till we came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and there a derelict lay. It was trapped in the ice, but I saw in a trice that its name was the Alice May. Well, I looked at it, and I thought a bit. Then I looked at my frozen chum, and here, said I, is our crematorium. Well, some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. I found some coal that was lying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. Well, the furnace roared, and the flames just soared, such a sight you rarely see. And I burrowed a hole in the burning coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I took a hike, for I didn't like to see him sizzle slow. And the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear. But the stars were out, and dancing about, ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peek inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked. So the door I opened wide, and there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the midst of the furnace roar. He wore a smile, you could see a smile, and he said, please close the door. It's warm in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plum Tree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. Well, there's strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold, and the Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen strange sights, but the strangest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam McGee. That's it. Thanks.
Bertha, that was wonderful. It's just so, I've heard that number of times. I'm sure a lot of us have grew up here, but you just are your voice, your whole everything about you, you infuse it into the poem and put your own rhythm to it, and it really brings it to life. And thank you. I loved it. Thank you. Okay, now we turn to back to folklore with Bobby Kincaid. And Bobby, we're so happy you are here. I'm going to spotlight you. Bobby, I have to make sure everybody who's newer to the swap knows that Bobby was the co-host of this swap for many years. And so it's so great to have you coming back, sharing stories. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Liz. As you know, I do series of stories because once upon a time I told stories at the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco, where my life was opened up to the world. And this is a story about taming tiger. It's a Korean tale, and I went into the Korean galleries with it, but mostly my granddaughter has a bit of Korean in her, and now my great granddaughter, Rosie, has been passed down some Korean. So I was thinking of Julia too when I did this story. And the first one starts out, there was no Korea, nothing but water and mud. And above this water and mud floated this great, big, beautiful golden castle, the castle of the sun. And inside lived the Heavenly Father and his princess, his daughter, and his prince, the sun, and the court and the guards of the different directions. Well, they loved singing and dancing and music, and the princess really loved dancing and singing. But she liked to do it out on the balcony where she could look out at this vast open space. Well, this particular day she was dancing and she heard a clunk. Well, she wore this crown and it had leaves, golden leaves around it with some jewels, sapphires, and diamonds. But she had this fish on there. And the fish was very important because it was the creative force in this world. Well, she took her crown off and the fish had dropped. And she looked all over. She looked all over the balcony. She looked all over, till she was just bursting in tears. And she yelled for her father. And her heavenly father came, and the heavenly prince came, and they looked all over. And so he finally, the father, called the guard of the west, Tiger Spirit. And he says, Tiger, would you call up the rest of the guards? And the tiger said yes. So he gathered up the guard of the north, which was Turtle, and he gathered up the guard of the east, which was just Dragon, and the dark guard of the west, which was Duck. And they scoured, they looked everywhere. So finally, the tiger spirit went back to the heavenly princess and he said, could it be possible that the fish fell down in that water? And she said, oh, no, that can't happen. It's magical. It'll create things. It'll create things that we don't even know about. And she started crying, and her father held her, and he said, out of chaos, a lot of wonderful things happen. And the guard of the west, Tiger Spirit, said, I'll just jump down. And he jumped over the balcony and he landed in this muddy water splash. It wasn't that deep. So he started picking it up in his hands very carefully and stacking it like one does pottery, and stacking it here, stacking it there. And these mounds started growing and the water started coming out of it and the rivers started to grow. And he kept stacking these up. And the Heavenly Father said, we'll name those things mountains. And those things coming down can be creeks. And then that's a valley. Look at that. And the water runs through the valley and it's going back to the muddy water. Well, that tiger guard kept, pretty soon he felt something and he looked at it, it was shining. He raised his paws and he said, I found it, I found it, I found it. And everybody was so happy. And he jumped back up on the balcony. And the princess was really happy. She was still crying, but her eyes were swollen, and her tears were coming out. And she took the fish and she started wiping it off. And she says, oh no, some of its jewels are gone. What have I done? What have I done? And the father took her again and held her and he said, what happens out of chaos might be for the best. And he said, we should watch this. Well, the prince, heavenly prince, had been there the whole time watching. And he said, I'll stay here on the balcony and I'll watch to see what happens down where these mud piles are. And so that's the first part, the first myth of the Tiger series. And the next one will be called Tiger and Bear, and we'll see what happens there. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bobby. I've heard about the tiger and bear, but I didn't know this. But the best part, out of chaos, a lot of wonderful things happen. I think that's
Yeah.
something we need to all hear right now because there's sure a lot of chaos, and
Yes, that's why
I want
thought
to feel like a lot of some wonderful things will come out. So thank you. That's a really great perspective to have.
okay, good.
All right. Well, those are the people who have signed up to tell stories. I have a little story I'd like to tell, but first, let's just talk about the Bay Area Storytelling Festival. Even for those of you who don't live here in the Bay Area, you can come too because there's virtual and tickets to it. And it is this Sunday. And it's going to be all day. And there are well-known storytellers from all over the country coming. Andy often Irwin, whose name I have trouble. It's a very funny storyteller. Motoko from Japan is very dynamic, interesting storyteller. And then there's another storyteller that I have never heard before, whose name is Jasmine Cardenas. And I'm looking forward to hearing her. I think she's more from a theater, maybe solo performance kind of, I think. So that's gonna be great mix. And then there's workshops and there's a showcase of SAC members from different parts of the state, and I'm one of them. So I'm excited, really excited about that. And I'm putting in the chat a link to a page where you can buy tickets, and you can also see the schedule as you go down. It's from 10 to 6 something, I think is, let me see, I got to click on the, I thought I put it here. The schedule, it will end at 6:30. But you don't have to come to the whole day. You can come to just one session and buy a ticket for that, either virtually or in person, or for the morning or for the afternoon. So please join us. It's a festival that's been going on for decades, and a lot of us on this call have been very involved in it and behind the scenes, and so we love it. And I know that a bunch of you are coming, but they're also still looking for volunteers to help out. I just wrote, and I put in the email that I sent to everyone, if you are coming in person, I just let them know that I can help with, I've sat at the ticket sales table many a time. And so it's not too late, as long as you're going to be coming, to let them know that you're willing in between sessions to help out. So please do. Again, I put that in the email. But if you want to help out and you can't find that, I think all of you have my contact information. Please let me know and I'll pass it on. Okay. Anybody want to say anything else about the Bay Area Storytelling Festival? Vicky's got her hand up.
I just want to say real quick that
I have a question. If you sign up for virtual, will the recordings be available for, did you say 3 months?
Let's see what it says here. Let me see if I can find it. Just a minute. Tickets. I'm looking on my computer. Okay. Virtual tickets. Just a minute.
I think the whole thing.
It says recordings will be available for viewing through August 31st. So
Okay.
basically all of May, June, July, August. So yeah.
Okay.
And Walter?
I wanted to say something not about the festival, something else.
Okay.
Bertha, I grew up in Hollywood, California, and I went to school with half my school were people from Hollywood, and the other half of people worked for Lockheed and the Skunk Works. When I was either a junior or senior in high school, I went over to a friend's house, and this actor came who was there, and I can't remember his name, and all the people were there long gone, so I can't go back. But he told Sam McGee, and he was a well-known actor.
Yeah.
I was totally mesmerized with it. I mean, it was just incredible. And I've loved it ever since.
Yeah.
And I've read it several times to people. I've never been able to memorize it. I wish I could. But you brought back a very happy memory for me of the whole thing. And it just, thank you. It was well done. And I love that. What's it called? It's not a ballad.
Well, yeah, I think it's called a ballad. I think so.
No, I have his book. I have Robert Service's book.
Yeah.
Narrative poem?
Pardon me?
Is it maybe called a narrative poem?
No, there's a specific name for it. When we meet next month, I'll tell you
All
what it
right,
is.
let us
Okay.
know. Let us
Yeah.
know.
Because I have the book that a complete collection of all of his works.
Okay,
Yeah.
Colleen.
Oh, I
Colleen, do
just
you
wanted to
know?
say
Thanks,
I
Bob.
gave I read poetry when I was working at the library, and that was one of my favorites
Yeah.
that I did.
I know.
Yeah.
The cremation of San McGee,
Yeah, it's cute. Yeah.
because it
Thank-
has a happy
Thank you,
ending.
Bertha, for bringing it. All right, are you ready for one last story? This is one,
Yes.
stay unmuted because, okay, I'll spotlight myself, but I have the great good fortune and privilege that I have a school that I go and visit every month. And it's a school that has kids from transitional kindergarten through eighth grade. And I go into, it's different days, but every classroom. And in the older grades, I think to some of you have heard me talk about this before, but starting in fourth grade and up, I like to bring them what I call to them a riddle story. And I've gotten most of these out of this wonderful series of books called Stories to Solve, More Stories to Solve, Still More Stories to Solve, and something else like that by a guy named George Shannon. And you can get it at the library. But also, Margaret Reed McDonald also has some in her 3-minute and 5-minute tales books, which are also fantastic. She has riddle, like a chapter on stories that have a riddle at the end. So it's not a riddle, but it's something for you to figure out at the end. And so I'm curious, first of all, to see how it works on Zoom, but like, how do you stack up to the sixth graders and the eighth graders that I'm
Uh-oh.
this to this week? And this story apparently is it's told around all over Europe, but the Irish, it's definitely told in Ireland, and this is the version that I got from her. And Bertha, we'll see if you recognize it or anyone else does, but it's one of those stories about a pact with the devil.
Uh-huh.
So it seems, and it was so appropriate to tell at this school. They had just gotten a Blue Ribbon Award. It's a Catholic school, actually, from the Archdiocese of San Francisco's education department. And I was there, and guests came, and they were thanking the teachers and they were thanking the students for all the hard work that they had done, you know? And I thought to myself, there's one group of people that they're not thanking that deserve thanks, and that's the parents. You know, not only did the teachers work hard, not only did the kids work hard, but those parents worked hard to send those kids to school. And that's in this story. It's long ago. There was a man in Ireland. He was poor. He had 3 children and he wanted them all to get a good education, but he could not get the money together to do it. And so he started thinking, and he actually spoke it out loud. I would do anything if I could get the money to send my kids to get a good education so they'd have a good life. I would do anything. And you know who heard it? The devil. And the devil can give you what you want, but you know what the devil asks in exchange. So the devil appeared to the father and said, I will give you all the money you need, but in 7 years, I'm coming to take your soul. Is that a bargain? And the father thought, well, okay, I'll have to suffer, but my children will benefit. And he said, yes. And the children, indeed, all got a great education. The first became a priest, the second became a doctor, and the third became a lawyer. And the father, they knew about the bargain. And so on that day, 7 years later, they were all there. The devil appeared. I'm here to take your soul. And the priest spoke up, and he begged and he pleaded, and he told how his father was really a God-fearing man, and have mercy, and please, please don't take him. We need him. We love him. None of us want him to die. And so the devil, I don't know how how the priest convinced him, but the devil said, all right, I'll come back. And he named a date a couple of years in the future. I'll let you have your father for a little while longer. But that day came, and the devil appeared again, saying, it's time. You got to come with me. I'm taking your soul. And now the doctor spoke up and argued with the devil and pleaded and explained how his father had been very ill, but he had been able to use his own skills and knowledge he had learned to give him a few more years and just let him have a few more, just a little bit more. Don't take him now. And the devil agreed. On the next date that was agreed for the devil to come back, here he was again, ready to take the soul. And now it was the third child, the lawyer, who spoke up. But the lawyer didn't beg and plead. The lawyer said, look, we all know that you deserve to take our father's soul today. You've been more than patient. But we need to say goodbye. And the lawyer pointed to this little stub of a candle that was on the table with a little flame flickering in it. And the lawyer said to the devil, if you just will wait, don't take our father's soul while this stub of a candle still lasts. Then we'll say goodbye, and then you can take him. Well, the devil looked at the little stub, and it was indeed tiny. And the devil said, all right, I can wait. If I've waited all this time, I can wait a little while longer. But as it turned out, that devil never got to take the father's soul. He didn't die that night. He lived until it was his time. But what had happened? How come the devil was tricked? What was the trick?
They never lit the candle.
Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna remove my spotlight. I'm gonna make sure I can see everybody. So what I always say to the kids when in the classes is that I don't care if you get the right answer, that happened to be in this story. And it's very often, sometimes the first person who says, oh, I think blah, blah, blah is right. And very often though, it takes a few people and it takes listening to the person and, all.
Friend Cynthia.
So that's what I always say is just
she's
listen to everybody else. And
the candle.
okay, Bev, what do you think?
Okay. They never lit the candle, so it never burned out.
No, the candle was alight. The candle was burning. If I didn't make that clear, the candle was burning when the lawyer said that to the devil.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay. So good guess, but as it turned out, the candle was burning.
Okay.
Colleen, but
it was
happened, yeah.
floating on a sea of oil.
Some of the kids said things like it wasn't really a real candle.
I don't know. I haven't heard it before.
But that wasn't it in the way I heard the way I read the story. That wasn't it.
It was one of those battery candles.
Yeah, no, it was so long ago they didn't have batteries.
Liz, I've told that story, but I can't remember the end.
Yeah.
I can't remember the punchline. I've told the story, but I can't remember the punchline.
Anybody else want to? Also, it's so tricky telling these stories because you have to give enough information, but not too much. And I've only told it a couple of times yet. And in one class, they all raised their hands like they could get it right away. And another class, they didn't, so yeah. What do you think, Bobby?
Time did they light the candle?
What time did they light the candle?
Yeah, for the next day.
Oh.
Must have been late at night, like 11:30.
But it really, the thing is that the key is that it's the lawyer and it has to do with the lawyer, as lawyers do, uses language, the specific language.
Yeah.
And so again, like what's so interesting when I do this with the kids is that, it depends on how well they're listening to exactly, and they've done a lot of these, so they know now.
Tell us again exactly what the lawyer said.
Yeah,
so the lawyer said, okay, let me try and get it right. The lawyer said, will you please not take our father's soul as long as this stub of a candle lasts?
Yeah. He blew it out.
So it's not just that, okay, so that's what he said, or she said, could have been I don't know,
lawyer.
Old story, probably a son. But then something happened, but the devil was not able to take the
So it was never lit.
Yeah.
It was lit at
But
first.
it got blown out right away.
Yeah. So the lawyer went over to the candle and blew it out.
Yeah.
And
Ah.
so, and then did whatever, stuck it in his pocket or
Yeah.
so the stub of the
Stub
candle
remained.
never
Yeah. It was
always
never,
lasted.
Oh,
So it
yeah.
wasn't as long if he had said to the devil, please wait until the stub of a candle burns out,
Yes.
then
Yeah.
it would have burned out, right? But he just said until the stub of a candle lasts, and then went over and
Yeah.
sucked it
Right.
out.
Wow.
So that's the story.
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to end our recording.
Remember?
Thanks for trying that out.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you can to hear you can trick the devil. That's
Yeah.
good.
Well,
Exactly.